So far, Mapua has had Atieno's number. Ugilo goes back to his goalkeeper. Great first touch from Onyango. Even better spin too. Pass doesn't match his previous movements. That was shot from range, held up in the wind. There's Omondi. So this time in the second half, Kenya are playing with the wind. Zimbabwe against it. Handball. Oh, offside. Sends the linesman rather. Perhaps a combination of both. A double whammy for the Kenyans. And for their number 14, who is also another substitute, Patrick Otieno, who scored that penalty against the Copper Bullets last Thursday evening. Here he is, Patrick Otieno. Hativagoni gets in the way. July. And here they go to Kenya. Benson Ochieng. Still Benson Ochieng. The cutback is good. Is that a penalty? The ref says no. Wagged his finger rather furiously. Great run from Otieno. And then the cutback was good enough for Austin Atieno. He just couldn't quite wriggle his way through. Grab a hold of it and then unleash a strike. Simple stuff from Wanjala in Kenya in the second half. Otieno. Free kick taken quickly. Benson Ochieng. Great thought. Not the greatest of execution though. Look at this speed, however. Some of them really do have pace to burn. On that occasion it was Michael Tapera. Here's Onyango for Kenya, disguising the cross. Just simply not getting the better of July so far. Here's Omija though, ahead of the winger. Onyango shapes up for an early cross. Austin Atieno! Goal to Kenya! Just like last Thursday, they are in the mood for another shake-up, another surprise. And that is the first goal that Zimbabwe have conceded in the 23rd edition of the COSAFA Cup. They lacked a little something in the final third. Well, in the second half, Atieno has provided quite a sumptuous finish. A great take, and then just slotting it beyond PTC, who picked the ball out the back of his net for the very first time all tournament long. And now that goal has placed Kenya in second position in Group B with 6 points. And look at the confidence now. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's amazing what a goal can do to a team's confidence. And it would be a serious pity if Kenya are to falter and not progress into the semi-final stage, because this current scoreline places them level on points with Zimbabwe. Zimbabweans, though, as of now, just have a slightly superior goal difference. And the Kenyans seem to be in the mood for a few more. Zimbabwe need a response to shore things up at the top of the table. July dallies on it far too long. Otieng careless in possession. Benhura for Zimbabwe. Depura. July. Back to July. 2 against 3 there. That's a clumsy foul from Patrick Otieng, who really has made a difference for this Kenyan cohort in the second half. He's been the link between the defense, the midfield and the attack. That's Patrick Otieng. So careful placement by Banda. Face of razor sharp focus. 5 Zimbabweans in the box to possibly pick out a plethora of green shirts in there too. All 11 of them in the box, anticipating. Quick delivery from Banda. He could even try and sneak it in at the front post. Let's see what he can produce. Banda for Zimbabwe. Too shallow. Too predictable for that Kenyan back line, who come out of their blocks now, out of their shells, really, are the Kenyans. Banda. Great first time pass. His teammate, however, was caught by the Kenyan offside trap. In fact, he might have just been onside. It's a game of margins, this one, especially when it comes to offside and onside calls. Omondi. Really strong header from Hachiro. Mushore. And before the start of this tournament, Kenya picked up one of their biggest results against Cote d'Ivoire on the 11th of this month, of last month, should I say. And that draw with the AFCON champions was their 3rd clean sheet in 5 matches. They're also in decent goal scoring form. They put 3 past Zimbabwe earlier in the year, 4 past Malawi in March, and they also scored 5 unanswered goals against the Seychelles in November last year. So they never seem to struggle in front of goal, do the Kenyans, recently that is. And as for Zimbabwe, they've scored in each of their last 3 matches. And the only team they haven't scored against this calendar year was Lesotho. Might Kenya be the second? Banda launches one. Onyango does some sweeping and clearing work for the Kenyans. Onyango presses, but to no avail. He does get the ball now. Onyango decides rather to win the foul. Attract the error from Zimbabwe and Banda. And they've really upset the apple cart of the Kenyans. And boy, did they need that goal. Patrick Otieng. One offside, one would think. It's interesting to note that in the last few moments, Kenya have gone to the top of the log. Their goal difference turns out not to be inferior to Zimbabwe. So as it stands, Kenya will progress as the group winners of Group B. Zimbabwe are still second. Unless they respond now, they've got a free kick. And the goal difference of both Kenya and Zimbabwe is currently on 1 for Kenya and then 2 for Zimbabwe. But first place in the group is decided by the head-to-head record. And if this result remains unchanged, Kenya will progress as the top team of Group B because they defeated Zimbabwe. And that is a big if. They need to hold on. They need to apply so much focus for the remainder of this contest. What a story it would be. The Minnows, the guest nation. Muriwa Omondi with a really good clearance. The second time around was much better from Wanjala. Now Patrick Otieng, full of life, is the substitute. Otieno, goal scorer Austin Atieno. So Zimbabwe have to score. Atieno for Kenya. This time it's clutched by Pitisi. Banda wasting no time in getting the ball forwards and into the half of Kenya. Otieno. They need to establish some control in this fixture, do the Kenyans, after securing that all-important opener courtesy of a wonderful hit, a wonderful movement from Austin Atieno. Muriwa, very composed at the back. Here's Atieno, made by Benhura. Atieno. Kenya are far more confident in possession in the second half. Onyango, and he's been much more involved in the second period too, has Onyango. Patrick Otieng. The other Otieng is dispossessed and gives the ball away to Zimbabwe, who can't quite make it stick. Omondi, slightly on the back foot. Falls to Banda. Very tricky conditions that these players are finding themselves in. Here's Atieno. 3, now 4 players in advance for Kenya. It's recycled. Back to Onyango. Well, his intention was to whip it into that corridor of uncertainty. Just got it a bit wrong. That's partly why Kenya have been so successful in the second half, because of those early crosses by Onyango. There's nothing that a forward likes more than an early cross to attack. Here's Mushore, the liveliest member of that Zimbabwean cohort in the first half. Pretty silent so far in the second period. Austin Atieno tries to squeeze a ball through, fails in his endeavor. Muriwa. Great pass from Muriwa. Zimbabwe shifted along nicely. Benhura. Tapera. Tapera for Zimbabwe. Had a chance to stick it away, not once but twice. That's the first time that Kenyan backline has really been rattled. And again, it's Mushore that found himself in a really lethal zone. Kenya are actually from the COSAFA region, and the last time Zimbabwe faced a nation from that region was in November of last year. It was a scoreless stalemate with Rwanda. The most successful team in what they call the COSAFA Cup is without a shadow of a doubt Uganda. And just a word on Rwanda, they are also in the same World Cup qualification group as Zimbabwe, and they are currently leading that group. Second is Bafana, of course, who are in action later today against Eswatini. Not here, but at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium, where some of these supporters might make their way to, or they could just set up camp for the rest of the day. Now there's that golden goal again. Austin Atieno with a great finish for Kenya. It looked as if the ball was stuck beneath his feet. Managed to manufacture some space to produce a quite brilliant opener. And he's certainly made an impact, has Patrick Otieng. Many members of this Kenyan cohort apply their trade and strut their stuff in the Kenyan Premier League. Gor Mahia Football Club of Nairobi successfully defended their domestic league throne last season. July. Austin Atieno. Patrick Otieng. Bundles over. Finds his feet again. That's great footwork from Austin Atieno. Not a great pass. However, Kenyan players hold on to the ball. Here's July again. His options are rather limited. He has a big chance. Well judged by Petisi. The bounce of the ball can always be so tricky in conditions such as this. Austin Atieno nearly releasing Onyango. And then Otieno tried exactly the same. That Zimbabwean backline denying them not once but twice. Patrick Otieng. That's brilliant work done from Kenya to dispossess Tapera. And their number 10, Austin Atieno, is full of life and really wanting to add to his goal tally. It was in fact Atieno's second goal that he scored a little bit earlier on. Muriwa. Probably the most composed Zimbabwean on the field is Muriwa. It's a Mondi ball. He does marshal his backline rather well, does Omondi. It's nothing more pleasing for a defender to have a reliable goalkeeping behind. Audacious hit from Austin Atieno. He's riding a wave of confidence, is the Kenyan number 10. And the bounce sat up quite invitingly for Atieno. Here's Mushore. Really good ball from the midfielder. Hachiro. Not enough time. Atieno does have time and space though. Tries the more difficult ball. It's a massive chance here for Kenya to double up their advantage. But there was a handball committed by Benson Ochieng. His resulting strike just clipped the outside of the left hand upright. But he did use his left hand to his benefit to set up the strike. Tapera. Tapera has gone to ground. And then he's closed down Ohono in fury and frustration. Here's Omondi. The game is starting to slowly open up, especially for the Kenyans. Atieno wanted it, he didn't receive it. And Zimbabwe have a chance on the counter. But again, the Kenyans are so well structured, so well drilled to deal with that Zimbabwean attacking threat. Benson Ochieng. Ochieng is through on goal! That's number 2 for Kenya. That's the goal that might send them through to the COSAFA Cup semi-finals for the very first time in their history. It is a massive goal. One that started all the way back in the hands of Omondi. And then resilient running from Benson Ochieng to cause all kinds of chaos at the back for Zimbabwe. Oh, it looks like Benson Ochieng did get the meaningful and final touch. Just got there ahead of Muriwa, who I was just praising for being so composed. Not that occasion. Out-muscled, out-fought, out-maneuvered by Benson Ochieng. And Petsisi was in no man's land. And that is a textbook finish from Benson Ochieng, which might just seal the deal for Kenya. And now their goal difference with Zimbabwe is exactly the same. In fact, there's been another twist in the Group B tail. Comoros currently lead Group B just because of that head-to-head record, them beating Kenya last weekend. So Kenya are now 3rd on the log, which is subject to change. And the defending champions Zambia are staring down the barrel of their 3rd defeat in a row in the COSAFA Cup. There's going to be a sub here for Zimbabwe. Rauzi jogs onto the field hoping to make an impact for Zimbabwe. Boy, do they need a hero. Their future in this competition hangs in the balance. Jalai. And after an eventless first half, this game has really been sparked into life. And the Kenyans have really brought the fire that they missed against the Comoros. Now, besides Zambia, Comoros, Zimbabwe and Kenya are all tied with 6 points in Group B. And all the other groups are said to be just as tight. Benson Ochieng, Onyango. And Zambia may have the most COSAFA Cup titles, but Zimbabwe do have a few records of their own. They've amassed a total of 40 victories across the many COSAFA Cups, which is the most of any nation. They also own the record of the most goals in this tournament. Over the years, they have scored an incredible 113 goals. Today, they've been rather blunt in the attacking half. And there was also a time in which Zimbabwe undertook a 17-game unbeaten run in this tournament. A run that stretched across 3 or 4 tournaments. So Kenya will be hoping that Zambia can find it within themselves to force an equalizer in that match at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium. So just to confirm for you, Comoros are first with 6 points, Kenya are second. And even with this victory, Kenya have a really good opportunity to progress to the knockouts as the best runner-up. But they'll only know their future if they end in second spot in Group B after tomorrow's fixtures. As for Zimbabwe, if they can find just 2 goals, they'll finish on the top of Group B, but time is definitely not on their side. They've been off song this afternoon. Kenya have been full of fight. Led by that man up top, Benson Ochieng. Hachiro. Catching practice all day long for Ormondi. Muriwa. Now, during the 2013 COSAFA Cup in Zambia, Kenya might have exited the tournament prematurely, but there was enough quality to suggest that they could one day progress through to the knockout rounds. Their first group match that year ended 2-2 with Lesotho. They then beat Eswatini by 2-0, but their hopes were dashed when they succumbed to a 2-1 loss against Botswana. As a matter of fact, Zambia won their home tournament that year. They beat South Africa on penalties in the semi-finals and outclassed Zimbabwe in the final. Pitisi spotted the run of Banda, couldn't quite execute on his plans. Hachiro keeps the momentum for Zimbabwe. That's simple enough for Otieno, who really keeps his game rather simple. That's the second hand ball. Benson Ochieng has committed this game. So Zimbabwe really do need to go full throttle for the remainder of this fixture if they wish to turn things around and rewrite the script. Mushore. And the volley comes off Wanjala. Miscued volley in that. Banda. Delightful cross. And that's over from Ben-Hura. Really good play from Zimbabwe, stringing together a few decent passes, and then the knockdown was very delightful. It's just a pity Ben-Hura had too much venom on his strike, and Omondi's clean sheet remains intact. Banda. And as we all know, Kenya and Zimbabwe are coached and prepared by two astute tacticians. There have, however, been strict requirements placed on head coaches of national teams recently. In this tournament, all of the head coaches must have a minimum of a CAF Pro A or CAF B coaching license. Ochieng took it off the toes of Austin Atieno. Now it's July's turn. Great pickup from July. Here he is. Zimbabwe just simply need to commit more of their players. Patrick Otieng fulfilling his defensive duties for now. Kenya just simply can't afford to panic, because as of now, Kenya are the best runner-up team at this year's COSAFA Cup. Namibia, of course, have 4 points in Group C. They'll be hoping that the Seychelles can take a few points off Namibia tomorrow. As for Group A, all of the nations in that group, Mozambique, South Africa, Botswana and Eswatini, are all tied and stuck on 2 points apiece. Which means that the best runner-up will either be Namibia or Kenya. Here's Benson Ochieng. Kenya inching further and further closer to that Zimbabwean goal. This is where they need to keep possession, keep the threat of Zimbabwe at bay. And Okilo leisurely making his way to take this throw in for the Kenyans. The wind has picked up in the last few minutes or so. Austin Atieno, Benson Ochieng, and then July for Zimbabwe. Kenya are definitely on the precipice of something quite marvelous. Victories against Zambia and Zimbabwe will definitely look really impressive on their resume in 2024. Ben-Hura is dispossessed. Now Patrick Otieng. Ken Odhiambo can't control himself, overwhelmed with excitement and with the prospect of defeating the second most successful nation in COSAFA Cup history. Banda. Something needs to really happen sooner rather than later for the Zimbabweans. Could it be now? Mashore. Here's Banda. In a really advanced position is the left fullback. Now Hachiro. They just haven't taken enough risks, have the Zimbabweans. They've been far too conservative in this tie against the Kenyans, who have been up for the challenge from minute one up until now. And the crowd on the far side of the ground is getting a little bit rowdy. Banda. Plenty of hang time on the cross. Just 5 more minutes to go of regulation time. Kenya are desperately close to attaining history. Omondi. Otieng slips. Zimbabwe advance. Ben-Hura. Really good run from Banda. Instead it's Moshore's ball. A goal for Zimbabwe now would really throw a spanner in the works. It's difficult to know or predict the immediate future of both these national setups. Once their journey at this year's COSAFA Cup reaches a dead end, they might play a few friendlies here and there before they jump back into World Cup qualifying action early 2025. So that Kenyan defensive line right on the edge of the box. And they can take a deep sigh of relief, can the Kenyans? There are two more matches coming right your way after this one. Mozambique and Botswana enter this arena next. And at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium, Bafana Bafana will cross swords with familiar foes, Eswatini. Both those matches will be ignited at 3 o'clock sharp. And it's also very important to note that the winners of this group, Group B, which as of now will be the Comoros Islands, will face the winner of Group C, which could either be Angola, Lesotho or Namibia. That's yet to be confirmed. Nothing has changed in the other match between Comoros and Zambia. The Island boys still hold a slender lead over the 7-time and defending champions, the Copper Bullets. As expected, some time wasting here from Kenya and Otieno. Here's Austin Otieno. Got the show on the road for the Kenyans. Austin Otieno. Can the Kenyans seal the deal and eliminate Zimbabwe? Not a bad strike. Otieno caught it quite sweetly. Just wasn't on target. It really is a difficult technique to pull off from the volley. Here's Muriwa. Typical Muriwa ball. Zimbabwe have a free kick due to a tug of the shirt. It is truly a rare sight and a wonderful feat to have won 2 consecutive COSAFA Cup titles. Zambia have done so on 2 occasions in 97 and 98, as well as 2022 and 2023. Zimbabwe also defended their title in 2018 after winning it in 2017. But that, all of those memorable stats and figures mean absolutely nothing to Kenya. They have outperformed Zimbabwe this afternoon. They fully deserved their victory. Onyango working doggedly at making a very good run too. Muriwa just pops in front of Onyango. So the referee's additional time is a mere 2 minutes. Otieno. Here's Patrick Atieng. After giving the ball away, he's won it right back as Atieng. Full of running. Here he goes again. Atieng, will he keep it there by the corner flag? The answer is no. They'll settle for a throw-in, will the Kenyans. It's incredible to think that Zimbabwe, after being announced as many people's favorites to go on and win the COSAFA Cup, are seconds away from being eliminated. Atieng, free kick Zimbabwe. No solace for them at all. And they haven't been afforded any breathing room whatsoever by the Kenyans, who have played the perfect tactical match against the Zimbabweans. They've nullified every single threat. Banda chasing a lost cause. Everyone waiting with bated breath for the referee's final whistle. Austin Atieno, strong contender for man of the match. And Omondi has been incredibly resolute at the back. And the big news is that Zimbabwe have been eliminated by Kenya in the COSAFA Cup. And the Kenyans have really given themselves a decent shot to go through as the best runner-up. They'll know their fate tomorrow afternoon. But Zimbabwe know theirs. After a brilliant start to this tournament, after claiming 2 victories from 2 matches, Zimbabwe have simply been outperformed and really outmuscled by the Kenyans, who have kept things simple and effective. And they have their just reward, the reward that they came for. Two goals proving to be enough for the Kenyans over the Warriors, who really didn't put up any type of fight or didn't display any kind of warrior spirit. Dejected, despondent faces for Zimbabwe. Just hasn't been their year. And so far, the team to beat has been beaten by the Kenyans, the guest nation from the COSAFA region, coming over to the southern region to impart their style and attitude and make a strong play for the Final Four. Zimbabwe have been well supported by the local crowd here, but they just haven't given a lot to shout about. That game at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium has also just recently wrapped up. Comoros claiming a victory over Zambia, which means that Comoros are the gold medalists in Group B, and they will either play what is set to be Angola or Namibia come Friday afternoon. They gave it their all, but they all just wasn't enough. And in the Windy City, Zimbabwe have been